Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of applied wisdom and kindred spirits alike, welcome to another Pneuma of NOW podcast here on the Luminal Mind channel, where we journey beyond the conventional into the mystical realms of self-mastery. I am your host, Richard Blankenship, the triple guru from Kansas, but we're not in Kansas anymore. Today, we're diving into the transformative power of presence and the beauty of heart-centered communication. As we explore these concepts, let's invoke the essence of our true selves, our commitment to community, and our receptivity to the unknown. We gather in the presence of a luminous soul whose light has guided me through the intricate confusion of life's journey. And it is with great honor that I introduce the listening audience to Regan, a beacon of consistent teaching, a wellspring of foundational reminders, and a divine encourager who has touched my heart and mind. Her voice, unwavering, has been a compass leading me through the labyrinth of knowledge with clarity and grace. Regan reminds us all of the roots from which we grow, grounding us in truths that withstand the test of time. Her words, imbued with foresight, have carved pathways into the future, making her a true thought leader. Always a step ahead, always seeing what lies beyond the horizon. But beyond her wisdom and foresight, it is her unconditional love consciousness that sets her apart. In her presence, we feel seen, accepted, and appreciated. Her insight is a gentle embrace, a soft whisper that tells us we are enough, just as we are. She embodies the love that transcends boundaries, a love that heals and uplifts. So let's just open our hearts and minds and welcome Regan of Transforming the Darkness to this second appearance on the Pneuma of Now podcast. Truly the first guest to appear twice. And 2 years was the last time we talked. 2 years is too long, and that's on me. But I just want to thank you with saturated gratitude, eternal, just thank you, appreciation, really, for your receptivity. And you have an open door invitation on this podcast. So just know that. And if I'm just to ask you anything or hand over the microphone, it is just to introduce yourself, what you do, what you think about doing in the future. Casting a vision is what I use on this channel to help others, to see into the future a little bit. And so thank you. And we will go from here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Richard. That was um such an amazing and kind welcoming. Thank you so much. It really, touches my heart, and I am very honored to be here. I love you and your work as well. And so, it's just so good to be back. I'm so excited to see the kind of things that come up today. I know it's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Your teachings have just, I guess, many, many years now. I can't even count. But really, your voice in the void has been a really compassionate, comforting voice. I truly have seen every single video that you've done. I mean, I always go, okay, it's time for some Reagan studies. It's time for some transforming the darkness. Do you want to talk about why you've decided on that name and how your channel has morphed over the last 2 years? It's been a true pleasure seeing you grow as a content creator, and I just hope you keep going. This is me interviewing you, but really it's an encouragement. Oh, I've got two things I need to do first. I forgot the gong.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so this is cool. We did this last time, so I wanted to bring her back in. This is a gift that a customer gave me when I was working for Barnes and Noble. I was so cool with this guy. He was mentally challenged, but he loved music, and I was the only person that really could kind of help him out. And he brought this to me one day, and it says, "Strike the gong to uplift your spirits and attract wealth and good luck." And so we know that three is the key. All right. So at least I've got that in. And then I wanted to light some incense because I don't do this. I like to set the stage for people and get the energies going. But anything you want to say, anything you want to talk about, I'm kind of interested in the last 2 years of your life because I've been kind of doing my own thing. But I so appreciate having this opportunity. And really, let's just see where the conversation flows.
Yes, you're looking like a true space cowboy with the with the stars and the hat and the incense and the gong. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I didn't even think about that. I had this, we bought this couch a couple years ago at a thrift store, and the second I saw this couch, I was like, this is where I want to do interviews. And so I'm starting that process. It took years to get it together. So thank you so much. That's great.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Where to even begin? Yeah, the transforming the darkness, it just kind of came to me, that was back in 2018. I can't really explain it. It was just sort of intuitive, but I'm grateful that it's like upheld, throughout all these years because I think it's something that still is so relevant to my life for sure and to so many other people's lives of just continuing to walk and, embody our light, but also being able to, it's indispensable to be able to stand in the darkness as well, and that can mean a lot of different things, but, just continuing to have this as much as possible loving and harmonious, which is a challenge, relationship with your shadow and your ego and the shadows and egos of others. Just learning how to navigate it all with like higher levels of grace.
Something that came in right there was I've been using the term grace and precision, and I don't really know where that came from recently. But even in one of your episodes, not too long, the one I reviewed not too long ago, is it Untethering from the Matrix?
Yeah.
That episode was just fire. I mean, it was such a good that for whatever reason, that was one that really resonated with me. Obviously, all of the links to Reagan's content will be down below. Website with a whole lot of great articles, transformingthedarkness.com, and anything else you want to mention just right off the top of the episode for people to be aware of your services, your work, anything like that. And then I'm gonna get into some questions because I do have some for you.
Yes, amazing, amazing. That's so relevant. I love that. Grace and precision. That's really good. Yeah, just, that's mainly what I'm up to these days is, my channel, and then I'm offering sessions. I have some things I've been working on under, you know, wraps still as far as music and some of the other creations that I'm going to be coming out with soon that I'm excited about. But yeah, that's definitely the core where you can find everything right now.
All right. Well, excellent. She's got the Instagram, the YouTube, and definitely the website. That's really kind of how I stay in touch with Reagan, and I feel like that's pretty good connectivity. And then let's see. Really, my first little point here. We know we like triangles on the Luminal Mind channel, and I was reminded that you kind of have a what would I call it? Mnemonic for the Trinity, and you call it love, wisdom, and power. Can you speak to how you developed that and how you use that in your day to day going ons?
Yeah, so that's actually something I first heard from a channel called Eldora and Saman. They mentioned it and it really stuck with me. I was like, yeah, that's really good. That is kind of, that is a really good like triangle to remember of just being, well, love is, the answer to kind of everything. A lot of the times when you get down to the core of it is more love for yourself, more love for others. Um, and I think that's really the point of it all. And then, also being in our power, having, whether that's having our sacred boundaries and we're such powerful beings. That's one of the most exciting things I think about coming out of this sort of mind control paradigm is that it's not even just, leaving this old way of being. It's like we're stepping into something where we're remembering how powerful we truly are as creator beings. And I just think that's so exciting because the capacity, the potential for how we can live is um, so much more than I think we previously imagined. So that excites me. And so we have so much power and wisdom, of course, as we learn and have these experiences, especially, the ones that are challenging or dark or, the hardest stuff that we go through in our lives. If we can just keep having the faith and going forward, it often leads to the most incredible wisdom. So that's just three things that that come back to me from time to time.
Yeah, well, I have a whole bunch of those like triangular relationships. I cut out triangle pieces of paper, and anytime I hear any of those seep through the conversation, I would love to link to that particular channel just because you mentioned it in the conversation. So I've never heard of that, but we'll get all that figured out when we get it uploaded. But this whole idea of the ego death, you really speak about this renewal of ourselves, but also just really the letting go is letting God, so I'm just mirroring kind of some of the phrases that I hear you use that I really love. And so I love that everybody out there sees these things from their own dimensional, and they use their own language. And as just somebody who's absolutely in love with the language, I so appreciate your vocabulary. I so appreciate how you can say the same thing two or even three ways within the same sentence. I don't necessarily have a really good example of that right here. But like, oh goodness, I wish I had written that down. There was one with solitude, silence, and there was another S word that I forgot it because I didn't write it down. But
That was
you have all these really cool ways, for whatever reason. For me, it's like aha moments just all throughout many of your videos. Definitely the untethering from the matrix, you want to check that out. Also the video that's your presence is your purpose, or your purpose is your presence. Can't remember how that goes. Do you want to speak to that aspect at all?
yeah, yeah, the your presence is your purpose. That's interesting because I everything, I do is really so spontaneously kind of just channeled from my heart. So I don't even, try to do any of that stuff. I just really try to get out of the way and let it come through. And that's probably, the hardest part when my ego is like, oh no, you gotta do it a certain way. But really that's just how my spirit flows. I just love to hear how it resonates for people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and you've inspired me with that flow. You've inspired me from not, over preparing too much. I do that because that's just I like to prepare and be at least have a dozen pages of notes, whether I've only looked at two or three things, you know. So, I mean, that's you've definitely given me a toolkit just based on your example. I think that's really the best thing we can do is just role model our gifts to people. And so, are you an Aquarius? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay, because for whatever reason, I'm bringing in Aquarian energy, so that's pretty crazy and pretty synchronistic. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So an Aquarius is a water sign, obviously, and is it kind of you talk about it being an air sometimes, like you're airy, and so your mind is able to kind of go into different kind of energetic dimensions or realms and touch in with these wisdom sets. And so, do you attribute that kind of skill or that gift or ability to some of your wisdom coming through? Or do you have like a set of authors that really activated you? Or, like how did you come into your full authenticity? If that I am to ask a direct question.
Yes, what an amazing question. Age of Aquarius, right? We're going into it, so that makes sense. Um, it's so interesting. I think it's just I'm very, very grateful that I've always done my best to just follow my heart and follow this higher knowing within me. And it's just really guided me. Not that it's always perfect, but I feel like that's just the biggest thing that I have to contribute it to because it's always just and as I started really starting to pay attention to it and hone in um like discerning that guidance and internally, I guess. And it's still a never-ending process. That's really, I feel like, been just the my biggest guiding force of what makes me the way I am, and just sort of really, I don't know, I've always felt connected to God, or something greater, and always just really, there's been big points in my life where it really came out. I was like, oh my gosh, like wow, like just witnessing uh, miraculous things, and it just makes me like so humble. I just want to, serve this uh creation. I just want to help, however I can. And so it just leads me down all these different wormholes and paths and ideas and projects. And, you know, sometimes it can be confusing, but, at some point it all culminates and it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I get it.
Well, your commitment to service is pretty obvious, and I try to embody that as much as possible. I've been trying to kind of back off on the I'm not going to change the world or my desire to change the world. I really think of human beings, I'll call it consciousness distribution units. And all we're doing as two people coming together is distributing our consciousness to other units. And one unit at a time, one pebble into the pond, all these metaphors of rippling our demonstration out in the world. And so I think you've done an amazing job of that. So, I mean, that's pretty apparent from my perspective. And something that kind of came through one of your lives, I believe it was a comment from somebody, but they said that the mind is the labyrinth and the heart is the doorway. So can you speak to that aspect of like the mind as electric, the heart as magnetic? You have some kind of teachings on this. I'm sure you can elaborate for our viewing audience.
Yes, yes. The mind and the heart connection is so amazing. And that's another thing we continue, I think, to learn and explore. What's coming up for me right now is just the importance of coming into the heart in this time because we have been so in our minds. And I truly have found that, it's like that old saying, the mind is an amazing servant and a ruthless master. I don't think it's supposed to be our mind that is leading us. I think our mind is supposed to be a part of our, assistance, of course, but to start tapping into a more heart-led, more soul-led life, and feeling our bodies more, because that's part of this old paradigm that we've been in. It's very mind based, it's mind control. It's like not only are we controlled by these programs in our minds, but we're just so controlled by our minds. And what I've been finding is that I continue to go on this path. Um, as I continue to, speaking of ego deaths, really start to let go of a lot of these like addicting thought patterns and identifying with these thought patterns, which can be hard work because it's like, you know, it's the work of realizing who you thought you're not, basically you're not who you even thought you were, and you're so much more, which is amazing. But, when you're really going through that, it really is a death and it can be very painful and, it's a whole process, but it's so worth it. But what I find is it's really amazing as I come more into my heart, more into my body, I'm able to be more receptive to my soul. And it's a whole new way of being because it just makes me realize, like, man, like, I don't have to just be like this monkey mind that's just dictating me around all day, telling me what I need to do and keeping me sort of in the same loops. I find a lot of freedom in like really practicing being in my heart and being led from my heart. And there's just such a presence there. There's such a calmness there. There's such an eternal knowing there. And you can't experience that in the mind. You just cannot. And some people have a lot of problems with that, I think, because everything is so intellectualized. And of course, the intellect is amazing. And the mind is an amazing creative tool, and getting into the higher aspects of the mind, the third eye, the imagination, the intuition, the visions, and all these things. I think to be able to really take the best, use of that is to let yourself be more in your heart and your body. And then that's when the mind can just be such an amazing tool that isn't just bossing you around based on trying to protect you from the dangers of the world, but it can actually guide you into creating this heaven on earth.
No, it's awesome. Thank you so much. That was all great. That was fantastic. So thank you for that. I'm going to segue really. You had a meditation. I believe you shared it from a Lori Ladd process, the command and demand.
Yes.
And so, can you just speak to that real quick or kind of go through a formula of what that meditation is? Obviously, we're going to have links in the description if you want to follow that meditation, but I do highly recommend it.
Yes, that's such a good one. I come back to that too. That's really about starting to come into your solar plexus chakra, which is like coming into your power, coming into your personal power, your soul or plexus, it's your soul. It's your fire, it's like that's when you tap into that energy in your gut, and it's like like it's like a lion. It's like, don't fuck with me, I'm focused, I don't care, I'm gonna do what I'm here to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's really great. So I love that. I love that you really encourage people to get into a practice of that and a practice of reminding ourselves who we are. And something that you said the other in one of your videos, I just love this. Practice like your life depends on it because it does.
Yes, it does, it's so true.
I just love that so much. It's so cool. The other thing I was gonna say here is you mentioned had a conversation about coffee the other about a couple months ago, and I've literally quit coffee in the last 2 months. But your particular episode on this really helped me to just zone in on it. Like again, just sending a probe into my mind through the transforming the darkness teaching. But you're like, look, coffee is going to get you more into your headspace. It's going to like speed up your thought processes. And so sometimes, most of the time, we need to slow that brain down. And so I think I'm coming back into this more neutral energy, more consistent energy. Now, it was a struggle, trust me, no doubt. I've had coffee. I did drink coffee on Mother's Day. But other than that, I've had no coffee for like 2 months. And I know that sounds crazy. I think I mentioned this in my last episode, but that's a reminder to me of my power. I can choose all these different things. I'm not beholden or addicted even to coffee. Now, trust me, I've got my vices, I've got the things, my habits, my habitual being. I have things to work on, but just the simple ideas that you've been able to present to me help me remember that I have that choice, that power. And anything there you want to talk about or help others that are coming on this path to like, wow, like how much am I just a reactive being practicing out habits without the power to decide what is going to happen today or what I'm going to partake of today?
Yeah, choice is everything, choice is everything. And the awareness of your choice is the first step, because it can be hard, it's like when your body is so, your mind is so programmed that your body is just doing these things automatically. It takes a lot of um, discipline, I think, and focus to uh, change, but it can be done, and it's amazing. And it kind of a side note that's been coming up a lot, since we started talking, that's just connected, is this idea I heard recently that I think is so true, is that um, when you have something in your heart that you want to share, it's not just about, or give, whether that's, a message or an art or a project or anything. It's like, it's so beautiful because it's not just about you. It's like you're dreaming of giving that, is there's somebody else in the collective consciousness who's dreaming of receiving that, and they need that for what they're creating and what they're doing. So I just feel this a lot as we're talking because it's so affirming. I'm so grateful because sometimes I share these things and I'm like, like I don't realize that, it's able to truly be so I'm so grateful it's able to be so helpful to you and to people. And it just, kind of confirms how much we're all connected and how important it is to for us to show up and, share these things on our hearts because it is something that, is like an answer to someone else's prayer. It's amazing.
Well, and I think a lot of these discussions that I see evolving on the YouTubes, I mean, YouTube's a different place than it was 10, 12, however many years ago, right? And so what I've tuned into from the spiritual aspect is just kind of watching content creators, and I'm absolutely blown away with where human consciousness is within certain individuals. And so really my admiration for you is just that's what I'm all about. I'm about the divine encouragement just like you. And so that's why there's like a harmonic resonance here. There's a resonance of heart-centered communication, and a lot of what I'm doing here is being on the edge and doing things that I normally don't do, but I wanted to really share the open dialogue with people. I have a desire to be a fly on the wall for many, many conversations that I'm never a part of. And I always have to ask people in my life or my family, like, okay, well, can you give me the nuance of the conversation since I couldn't be there? And so that's what we're doing here. And I just thank you for your willingness. Your receptivity is just awesome. I know it has been way too long as far as getting you back on the channel, but I'm trying to turn that corner in my life where I have a real demonstration of progress. And I think that the season 2024 of this podcast, we're going to do many, many more interviews. I had no idea I was going to get this booked. So, all of these surprises, I'm following my joy. It gives me something to really look forward to. Last winter was a really kind of darker time. I had that winter depression kind of thing. I've been working on being a hermit for a really long time, but now my intention is to bring in more community, get more support, have more conversations for everybody else to witness and participate. Make your comments down below, join the conversation. That's what's so cool about these formats. And so I just really just am excited about what YouTube has to offer and excited about where these conversations go. And you need to know that I would not be here today without your consistent demonstration.
Oh my God, so much love. I'm so grateful. And I love, I love it so much and I love what you're doing. This is so exciting. And I'm so with you too. I feel that really surge of, like the desire for community and connection, because I've also been very hermit, very focused on myself, for a long time. So, it's amazing that many of us are really, I've always wanted community, but like it's different. It's hitting different now. It's like I really feel like now is the time. And so amazing. It's exciting.
Well, I guess we need to say hi to the Claire Voyagers out there that might be watching.
Hello, everyone.
I miss you guys, but I think about you all the time. I'll get back into the rhythm of things at some point, but yeah, we've had a really great time meeting. I've had a really great time interacting with your community, even though it's been a while. But just send my love their way if it comes up or if they get to see the video. Just know that my love goes out to all you guys and girls. It's super cool to build that community. I don't really know how to do that. I think just consistency, just showing people that you're showing up. I think that's part of it. I've uploaded more content in 2024 than any other year that I can imagine, as far as public content that I'm just like sharing with people. And so I've got a real big vision for this channel. This is very early beginnings here, and you get to say that you were a part of that.
So grateful. Yes, it's so exciting. I can definitely see it and how wonderful it is.
Yeah, well, we're gonna do this episode here in like two parts, and so we're kind of coming in, closing in on this halfway mark. But real quick, I wanted to mention this really cool book because this is called Liminal Thinking. And so this is a book by David Gray that questions our beliefs. Liminal is a word that I talk about a lot on this channel because I'm trying to take this idea to the next step. Okay, so liminal is like challenging our beliefs, really understanding that beliefs are models of reality, doesn't necessarily are reality. And you're gonna love this. If you put your brain on this book, you're gonna love it. Now it's gonna kind of probably, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's going to bring up different aspects for everybody. We're all going to meet this book with our own beliefs, is kind of what I'm saying. And I need to read it another time. But just getting prepared for this interview or this podcast here, a couple of precepts. It has like 7 or 8 different fundamental precepts here, but I just wanted to kind of read the first one. And I think I mentioned it briefly, but to read it from the book, beliefs are models. Beliefs seem like perfect representations of the world, but in fact, they are imperfect models for navigating a complex, multidimensional, unknowable reality. And so that's just one little page of this book giving the precepts, and it's asking you to question your beliefs and see things from another person's perspective. Take notes. What are the benefits of that person's perspective? What are the downfalls of your own? And so I'm going to have a link to this in the description below too, because this is one of those books that activated my channel as far as like wanting to take the ideas to the next step. So we've got really not much time here, but we're going to do a part 2 if you're open for it. Can you do another 40-minute session with me?
Yes, of course. I just have to
Okay.
say, like, just you reading the excerpt though, just like lit me up. Like that was amazing. That's so true. I'm definitely gonna have to get that book.
Okay. So we're on part 2 of the Pneuma of Now podcast with Regan of Transforming the Darkness. And what an amazing conversation we've already had. We're going to try to go a little deeper this time, but I want to initiate the episode with a sound, or this part of the episode with a sound. Okay, and then actually, what I want to do next, I just want to prime the atmosphere. So, in a world where shadows dance and stars whisper secrets, we tread the earth as angels, our feet brushing the soil of mortal realms. We are seekers, dreamers of a heaven that lies not beyond the sky, but within the embrace of our earthly existence. To seek out a heaven this side of the sky is to uncover the sacred in the mundane, to find light within the folds of everyday life. Yet a cautionary whisper echoes through the ages. Those that race alone shall stumble in the dark and fall from grace. The solitary journey, though noble in its pursuit, often leads us astray, for the path is fraught with hidden perils and unseen trials. In this isolation of our quest, we may lose our way, our hearts heavy with the burden of unshared dreams.
Wow, I love that. So synchronistic to, I feel like what we just talked about and what we're gonna get into. And I love that about how the sacred is in the mundane. That's so true. Because we're already God consciousness. We came here to be human.
That was one of my like aha moments, the awe where that I talk about on the channel. I don't know where it happened for me exactly. I'm not sure I can totally pinpoint the moment, but it was when I was working somewhere in a warehouse doing some real manual labor, and all of a sudden, like this energy came over me, like I hate my job. this sucks, this is challenging, I'm hot, I'm angry, I'm all disturbed. And then all of a sudden this space opened up where it's like, just embrace the sacred in the mundane. As simple as doing your laundry and doing the dishes. I'm terrible at all that stuff. But if I can get in tune with actually getting into like every single thing in this moment of grace, okay, like my movement in the world, when I'm getting coffee or when I'm pouring milk into a jug, like there's this motion where if we can tap into this sacred in the mundane, it's really can change your life. It changes your perspective, it aligns you to gratitude and appreciation for the shit that's all around.
Yes, so that's one of those things that's like, I feel like that's one of those top tier like secrets of life, honestly, because when you really practice that, it's like everything opens up for you. I mean, presence just really like, yeah, like intense presence. I mean, that's really the secret to getting everything you want and need. It's so funny how it's right in front of us.
No, I mean that's it. I mean the obvious is not obvious. And so
Mhm.
that's another reason why these conversations are important. Like you know more about me than I do just by your unique perspective of what I've shared. You know, like your intuition on things, like all the communications we've had over the years, like you have this amazing way of just like, wow, that's exactly right. So thank you for saying the top tier. That's pretty cool. If I'm kind of to revisit that experience, what I noticed is that my perception shifted. Like my senses, like I could see the light bouncing off of various textures. I could feel things and be like, wow, that's like petting my dog is like a whole new experience. Like it opened my perception up in so many ways. And I know you speak to this aspect. I know you have cats. I know you love your connection, your spirit animals. And you even mentioned that here you protect, you send out your like protective grid on your animals because they're helping us to transmute. If there's anything that my animals have done for me over the years, unconditional love consciousness. Like if we could treat other human beings the same way we treat our beloved animals, the world would be a better place. Why is that?
Yes, well, maybe it helps that animals can't talk, say crazy things to us. But
Hmm.
they're just such beautiful unconditional love, and oh my goodness, it's so true. They are such intelligent, amazing guardians, that take on so much for us.
Yeah, so are you partial to cats? Have you owned dogs in your lifetime?
Yeah, I love all animals. I'm not necessarily one or the other, but I will say I've just always had cats in my life. Like
Hmm.
growing up and even now, cats just always find me. I can't get away from them. But I love the feline consciousness. I resonate with it a lot. And I love dogs too. I just recently dog sat for my friend, and it's this big, almost the size of me dog. Only like a year old though, like baby mind, but huge dog, super sweet dog. So that was an interesting experience because that was a totally cats are really loving in a different way. That was it. So it was interesting to have that experience with the dog.
Well, excellent. Well, I want to change kind of directions here. Another real key component with your episodes and your uploads is this idea of victim consciousness. Really, if I'm going to be direct, I'm just asking you about your personal experience with like finding that concept and working with it, and how we can really just launch ourselves into an exit from the what they call the victim triangle or the drama triangle is what they call it. I think there's like the victim, the persecutor, and I don't have it all mapped out, but I know that you understand this concept of the victim consciousness. And I want to know personally, like about you, how you discovered that. And then if you have any sort of practices or thought programming or deprogramming that will help other people to really, like newcomers to the spiritual practice, like simplify it for people, because that's one of your gifts. One of your gifts is simplifying things. And you've been amazing at that. So I would love to hear that.
Yeah, such a good point because the victim mentality is what keeps us back so much. And I think for me, having big visions, having big dreams, having this deep fire, I guess, to experience more expansion. The victim mentality comes up and it's almost like a stubbornness, really. It's almost like a stubbornness of like, I am unstoppable. That's how I feel now as a soul. And so I'm not gonna let anything stop me. Things, I might make mistakes, things might slow me down, things happen to me or in my life that I don't always understand. But I know that I will find a way or make a way. And it really is that, like, that's again that solar plexus energy of like, just like I am here, like, I'm here, I'm gonna do this. And it is such an amazing, that's definitely a big core of transforming the darkness because when you're in victim mentality, it's okay, we all feel it. It's part of the process. You don't have to bypass, especially when you really feel you were wronged or you really were wronged. I mean, really, we've all been wronged in a lot of ways by the systems that we're in. But if you just stick in that and you just, use that to be an excuse, you're not doing yourself a favor at all. It reminds me of this one thing. This has actually been coming up a lot of forgiveness and the mysteries of forgiveness and why forgiveness is so powerful as, beings who are evolving. We have to we have to forgive ourselves, and we have to forgive others in order to really get to these like new levels of being because the density of carrying all this resentment or bitterness or hatred, again, whether it's towards yourself, sometimes we're not really kind to ourselves or towards each other, you know, um, it's just too heavy. It's too heavy. So I've just learned that time and time again. There's a point where, my spirit is just like, my ego is like, well, this person did this, and my spirit is just like, yeah, but you can't take that with you where you're trying to go. You can't take that with you. So that's just always really stuck with me. And so I always try to be aware when I'm because it's like you were saying with the beliefs, it's like we have to free ourselves from these limiting beliefs. And victim mentality is such a it's a belief a lot of times unconsciously that will just keep you from getting to the next level. So, you just have to really, really watch out for that.
Yeah, I mean, and these are all things I'm working on too. Everything is a process. Something I'm trying to work on is just not judging my progress, not judging the process, accepting with full radical acceptance. That's what love is. Love is a total acceptance of where you're at and where other people are at without the judgment. And trust me, it's easy to say this. It's not as easy to practice this. Another thing that came up for me here just while you were talking there was this whole idea of, and I don't know how you put it, but the whole idea of the issue of identity. You've spoken to that before, and I need a refresher. And for some reason, this issue of identity keeps coming into my field. And so it's something I'm investigating, and I think it's helpful for people to really understand that the way, as far as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, or improve the communication, it's like our level of identity or how we identify actually translates into our reality. And so those are the concepts I wanted to put forth into the probe into the inner recesses of Reagan's brain.
I love how amazing, everything, you're bringing up is. You really have a knack for like picking the most powerful, um, I don't even want to say concepts, but embodiments as well. Um, Yeah, so like when you talk about, there's this idea of like quantum leaping, which
Mhm.
is just making, I guess, really uh incredible and profound shifts in your reality very quickly. And it's real, it's a practice. And the core of that practice is practicing how you identify basically in your identity because every day we have this opportunity to be new. So, a lot of people, that's kind of again the old paradigm is like we don't even think about this. We just identify with who we were yesterday. We identify with who we were before that. And especially the ego loves to identify with trauma and the victim mentality. And a lot of times it's unconscious, but it's like we have this identity of like, I'm that person I'm always struggling, or I'm always busy, or I'm always broke, or I'm always all of these, limiting beliefs that we've believed, and we think probably hundreds of thousands of thoughts a day. We've thought these things for so long. Um, it's a lot of work to shift those thoughts and behaviors and habits. So one of the most effective ways to do that is to embody, and that is actually shifting your identity and how you feel in your body. So there's a lot of practices you can do, if you want to, um, for example, make more money. Like, it's about embodying in the present, in each present moment. It's a practice. How that version of you who is that abundant would actually feel, how would they actually be, how would they actually think. It's almost like method acting. It's like you're literally changing your identity. And so it's a lot easier to like change your behavior that way when you start realizing you're new. You don't have to be who you were yesterday, and you can let that go. And that's a whole process as well, because once you really commit to that, it'll happen. And you'll start seeing all these limiting beliefs that you were just automatically kind of going along with. They'll just be all in your face. And that's a process of death and rebirth, because those little ego parts of you are going to have their tantrums. And I think this is part of the practice. It's part of the process. It's just learning how to kind of let them have their tantrums and, lovingly be there as they can sort of, again, have their tantrums, and eventually they kind of, die, not in a bad way, but those parts of you will die and they will be reborn, within you. And I've experienced that a lot, especially lately, just really in amazing ways of like starting to question your beliefs. Well, I need to do this, I need to do that. All of these beliefs that are coming from the ego, that are coming from your trauma, coming from just trying to avoid these fears that we have. And, in a way, it actually just perpetuates these loops of being in fear. So I know that's kind of a lot. I could go on and on and on about that, but that's such an important one.
I love that. I've got three things as we do here, three ideas. The ego death. You said this. Let it rest in peace. I thought that was so powerful. I mean, I think I heard that last night and it's just reverberating in my consciousness right now. So I want to thank you for just receiving that and putting it out there, because that's exactly what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with this idea that like I am working on my belief structure. My ego is raging against what my heart wants to actually accomplish. And so I always come back to this thing like the mind is the problem. And the more we can meditate, and so for me, meditation and breathing practices helps me separate the body from the mind, getting into the body and putting the mind in its proper place. You mentioned this in the first part. The mind is a tool. We are the master, the mind is the servant. And I think everybody, or a lot of people, I hate to make generalizations, but people who are struggling, even like myself, it's inverted. And when I'm struggling the most, I have learned to recognize that inversion. And like an interesting thing, like my tantrums, I have a tantrum in the morning, almost every single morning that I have to go to work. But it's been an interesting experience. And I want to share this with people, not to take too much of the microphone here, but it's just it's an incredibly enlightening experience when you can hear your thoughts and you can say, that's bullshit. And like, I'm getting there. And it's taken me a long time to get there. And so what I do in the morning is I get up and before my feet hit the ground, I really do my very best. I intend to set up a divine connection before my 2 feet hit the ground, before my eyes even open. Or maybe I'll open my eyes and then be like, oh, let's close my eyes and get back into the divine current, because today is a new day. My philosophy is that The now moment is all there is. You talk about that a lot. And so, do you have a concept on the past versus the future? Do you even believe that there's a past and the future? Or do you believe that there's, I'm just kind of probing your mind on these concepts because everybody has their own identification with them.
Yes, and I also just want to say thank you so much for sharing that, experience because it's so relatable, and I think that's really what we're all going through. And even when you do make those breakthroughs, then there's going to be the next layer and the next layer. So it's just so like appreciate you sharing that. Um, yeah, so yeah, I mean, there is the now moment. Time is strange, that's something that continues to blow my mind. I think the past is great to learn from, not dwell into it. And what's really interesting, there is an interesting relationship, I think, between the present and the future, because it's like, we have, in a way, we have to be present to be able to really tap into the amazing divinity that is all around us. That's definitely like, if there was a number one priority, that certainly is it. And then also as creator beings, as artists of this life, which, is something near and dear to my heart. Our thoughts, our feelings, our intentions are all going into creating our reality. And of course, co-creating with our higher self or with God, which has its own divine intelligence that we are not in control of and we don't have to control. Um, so there's also an interesting relationship, I think, there though, is because, when you're creating something, um, it's almost like you're a magnet, you're bringing it into the present moment. So I don't know, that's always interesting to me. You're in your now moment, but obviously time is kind of, if you can even call it time in this day and age, it's just this natural unfolding of, I guess events that are happening and being able to create, it's like we have a lot of power there that I think is important in how we're being now.
Yeah, well, another thing that came up here, the feeling is the secret. Like acting, you mentioned method acting, so act as if. You can really kind of hijack your brain and you can kind of like go around the ego is the best way I can explain it just right now on the surface here. But just with those concepts in mind, how would you define this new kind of terminology of moving into the 5D version of ourselves or the world? Like, how do you look at the 5D as a personal thing or a global collective thing? I just like to ask people about this because I think the distinction is powerful. But again, I think it's nuanced. There's a subtlety there, and I think that you could probably help out the audience here.
Yeah, I think it's both. I think we experience it individually, but I definitely think it's you know it's curing, it's getting ready, it's a collective shift, most certainly, and that's why it's so intense, because a lot of the stuff that I feel that we're working through is not only our own stuff, but there's a lot of stuff in our lineage, there's a lot of stuff that goes into the collective in order to it's almost like the 100th monkey effect, it's like as we figure things out within ourselves, everyone, it's like it's crazy, and we see it, I'm sure you see it. I've been blown away by people I see online too, like amazing, inspiring people. It's like somehow we're all in this wavelength where like we're starting to figure out the same stuff at the same time, and it's really such an exciting momentum when you see that side of the awakening. So I think it's just the 5D state that we're going into it's just a more, it's like Christ consciousness, it's just a more loving, it's a more just unified state. And that not even just, we think again in the past, like that's something I've been humbled by a lot. It's just like cerebrally, like we think we can understand that, but it's not like a trying. It's like it just is. It's just as we align into that frequency, it literally is just a different way of being where um abundance just is, like understanding just is, like peace just is. There's not such a spectrum of all of this like duality, I guess you could say, which is like the biggest characteristic of the third dimension. And I really believe that's where we're all headed to. It's hard to say exactly when or how, or, I don't really worry about that. I just enjoy the ride. And I said in my last video, I'll share it now, it's like I just enjoy the hell out of it because that's what it feels like. We're coming out of that hell realm in a lot of ways. So just enjoy the hell out of it because it won't be forever.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that was a good moment in that video for sure. So thank you for mentioning it. Again, all the videos that we mention here will be in the description below. Another video that will be in the description is your 5 tips for incredible states of consciousness. I just love that one. I mean, there's just so many. There's just not enough time here. I'm just trying to help people to just discover your content because I know how valuable it's been in my life. And just, I mean, I don't even know. I kind of want to segue here to this idea of just kind of be funny for a second. But you know how people say, like, another brother from another mother, right? You were the first person in my brain where I'm like, ah, that's a soul sister from another mister. And I use that all the time now, but you're like the first person that was like gave me that idea. Like, oh, I've never heard anybody else say that. I'm sure it's not unique, but like you said, like we're finding these currents, like the 100 monkey effect. I love that. Like that's the resonant field. That's like we are tuning forks, and based on the science, if you put two tuning forks in tune and you strike one, it naturally harmonically resonates. I even think we actually mentioned this in our first interview, or first podcast with you a while back. But yeah, I mean that theme continues to come up, and I think that harmonic. I mean, it's a wavelength for sure. Even Maya with vibration translation on the vibration, like just to bring that in. Everybody go watch that. You know, I hope that I'm actually gonna recommend that she bring you on her channel. So we're doing a cross pollination here. The YouTubes are an interesting place, random chance encounters, meeting people like you. I've never met you in person. I can't wait for that moment whenever that happens. But it's almost unnecessary. It's amazing to me how connected I can feel to other people online. You and other people, like you said, like unbelievable content, unbelievable human beings all around the world. And I'm going to sit here, and everybody I bring on this channel is somebody special. So just know that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that energy. And I'm just so just I can't even just be even more down with everything that you're saying and I just feel it and it is very, very powerful.
All right. Well, do you have any special practices for people to really get into that heart space, or one of your favorites, and just the acceptance realm? I know you've got the solar plexus, like the fire and the raw energy to like conquer and command and demand, but there's another energy. There's
Yeah.
a softer energy. You want to speak to how to help people just get into that situation?
Yeah, of course. Very intuitive because I was thinking about sharing this practice, with that, that's that solar plexus and then coming up into the heart, you can feel those distinctly different energies, both very important, similar to, the mind and the heart connection. But something I would really love to give your audience that has been really transformational for me is going on walks. I guess you could call them like quantum walks or something, but going on walks. And as you go on this walk, practice and just have fun with it. That's so important. Not like all this, am I doing it right? All this ego, like, no, I'm not. Just have fun with it. Like as if you were a child, go on a walk and embody and I want to say imagine, but be on this walk. It's just a practice as if you were, um, I guess like the being you already had the creations that you wanted to create, if that makes sense. It's really amazing, whether you're trying to um have more peace or clarity or abundance. You can use it creatively like that. You can go on this walk because that helps us to get into the body, helps us to get into the heart, helps us to, and you're not trying to imagine yourself in a distant future. You're feeling it now. It's more getting clear, like, how would it feel if I did have more abundance or community? What are the underlying feelings? And then like walk with those feelings now. And you'll start to imagine or you start to experience amazing things. And if you really want to be funny, you can even try this like practice with anything. You could imagine yourself like embodying the energy of like a snake, or something, and you'll go by and you might notice people look at you kind of freaky. Or you could imagine you're like go on this walk like you're a supermodel, and you'll notice people look at you like, they want to like get your number or something. Like all these kinds of things you can just practice, speaking of the identity thing, and just realize how, creative we are and the power of that embodiment. Um, and this is just something to do for fun creatively, but and just remembering to come back to the heart and the love and the presence is always key too.
Well, I want to add to that just real simple idea that you already brought to my attention, but God is intending amazing things for you. And so
Yeah.
this receptivity while we're walking, I just want to add that thought because I'll do that. I mean, I've been getting more and more into nature. Hoping to get my mobile studio kind of better. This microphone can tap in right to my Android phone, and I didn't even know it. And so I mentioned that in one of my uploads this week. It's like sometimes that obvious shit is just right in front of you, and then you're like, oh, okay. And I love when that happens. Now, something that came up with me just a moment ago, you know, you remind me of this all the time, and I feel like every time I hear it, it's the first time I hear it. So I want to mention that here. The importance of play. Like, please help me with this. Ingrain this into my mind. We have like 8 minutes left.
Yes, that is again, that's a top tier one because like all this work we're talking about, it's like, just look at it as play, and everything gets so much easier when you kind of just you start to tap into like the frequency of God so much more. I think when you're remembering the spirit of the truth, which is love, it's play. Um, we don't have to be so serious, we can be sincere about what we're doing, of course, but to when we tap into that vibration of fun and joy and play, like when we were children, it helps us to really connect with like the real essence of our soul. And again, when you're on that frequency, you'll start having so much more abundance, and I guess you could say good luck, but it's not good luck, it's synchronicity. It's like you're more in tune with these vibrations. You're more in your heart, you're connecting, you're just remembering. It's so healing and aligning, and I love that.
Well, how can we help people recognize that state? Because we move in and out of these states. Are there some signposts that are going to help people to really see, oh man, wow, I am doing pretty good today. And then by comparison, recognizing that it's just maybe not your best day, but not to be judgmental because we really are people like us. Anybody that's listening to this episode and has gotten this far, I mean, we're going to have challenges. The awakening itself, the self realization, it can be a difficult thing. It's not all what do people say? Sunshine and roses, waterfall and roses. I'm not sure what people say, but cotton candy and dreams. But I mean, I literally have had a hard time, but every time I have a breakthrough, that transforming the darkness, you remind me that we can't escape those shadow selves without actually looking directly at them. And now, maybe some people have a different experience, but my personal experience has been battling the shadows.
Yeah, and then, something really encouraging and super true is a lot of times if we just keep going, like it's always it's always when you have your greatest shadows arising, and it seems like everything's falling apart, like in those moments it's like, oh my God, like I am just abandoned over here, kind of feels that way.
Mhm.
Those are always the most important moments, because when you're able to get through those and remember who you are in those moments,
Mm,
that's when your life is literally about to upgrade so much every single time. So that's, I try to remember that. And just like I call them alchemical points. It's like those are the points where you have to embody who you say you are, despite your external circumstances challenging you. That's the growth, that's the evolution. And as far as coming into your play, a lot of it helps with like getting back into things you like to do as a kid. For some people, maybe that's writing stories or playing music or singing or nature walks or just games or, whatever your inner child loves. And, I'm very aware that one of my biggest things is I'm always really aware of how I feel. And that's my first priority in a lot, as much as I can. So, I try to be really aware of how I'm feeling because I know that it's going to reflect to me in my reality. If I'm feeling free, I'm feeling uplifted, everything is going to show me that. So if I'm feeling the shadow, if I'm feeling pain, or I'm feeling desperate, or feeling angry, and I'm certainly not perfect at all, but when I find myself in those states, I try not to judge it, and I'm like, okay, let me stop trying to make something happen. Let me stop trying to force something. Let me just work with this energy. That's my biggest priority now. And rest, restoration, shadow work, feel those things, love those parts of myself because those parts need love, or do whatever I need to do. Ultimately, just to come back to the present moment and start cultivating, gratitude again and just being so loving, like not denying the shadow and repressing it, but loving it. And because again, every time you work through that shadow, you're going to come back into your light with so much more power.
That's absolutely beautiful. Really, we're running out of time here, but I just want to thank you so much. If there's any final words for you, we got 4 minutes. But really, I think that's a pretty good episode of the Pneuma of Now podcast. I mean, you're a rock star. You're an exceptional. Your demonstration is inspirational, and I admire you. So I've said as much as I can say, and let's just wrap this episode up. Any final thoughts for the audience?
Yes, well, just thank you so much, Richard. I am so grateful, and truly it is my honor and pleasure to be here. I mean, this is just so fun. I can't believe how fast these 40 minutes just literally go by. I feel like it's just insane. And I admire you as well. You're such an inspiration and unique mind. What you're doing is truly so unique. You're just absolutely brilliant with what you're doing, and not only mentally brilliant with all of these like really like just incredible ideas I've never even heard in my life, but the love and the presence that you're able to recognize and emanate is just phenomenal. So just so much blessings to you and your audience. Like just God bless everyone and so grateful. We're doing it, we're doing it.
Yeah, that's what this is about. Just airing the discussion for everybody because I think that's the time. That's part of the shift in my mind. That's part of the shift is letting people, allowing people to have, interesting, difficult, complex conversations in a civil manner. And so that's exactly what we're doing. But I am going to close the episode. Please hang on the line with me for another couple minutes. But we leave you with one thought and one thought alone: deep peace in the pneuma of now.